Are you the diamond lion dog? Are you the diamond lion dog? Can you pull plows? Can you plant fields? Can you pull plows for us humans? You just need to look cute and look handsome. Alright? Oh, we are shooting. Hello, this is the Chain Smoking Writer, where I share the myths, legends and histories of the Chinese people, from the first creation myths to the last imperial dynasty. Today, we are going to talk about the father of agriculture in China. His name was Yan Di. Now, many generations after the time of Shen Nong, there came another great leader amongst the people. Apparently, Yan Di was a descendant of Shen Nong, and he was well known for his great virtues and was given the title of the Flame King or the Fire King, Yan Di. So Yan Di technically was a title and a name as well, maybe. Yeah, but he was also known as Ci Di, which means Red King, Red Emperor. And he got these titles because it was believed that he embodied and it was a personification of the virtue of fires or the virtue of the color red. And there are a few of them further down the road that we will discuss, but for this episode we'll just speak about him. Now, Yan Di and Shen Nong in some versions of these myths are commonly conflated into one character, or in other cases they were confused with each other. For the purpose of this series, I would be going down the direction of Shen Nong and Yan Di being separate characters. Now, regarding Yan Di's birth, it was said that when Shao Dian's concubine Ren Si went to visit the western holy mountain or the western sacred mountain, Huashan or Hua mountain, she had a vision of a dragon dancing in the sky. And not long after having this vision, Ren Si found that she was pregnant and very soon gave birth to Yan Di. Now, many auspicious omens appeared during the birth of this future great leader. 9 interconnected wells started sprouting out water that was sweet, and 9 dragons appeared in the sky to dance above the location where Yan Di was born. And all these foretold or heralded the coming of a great leader of the people. Now, it was also said that Yan Di could speak just 3 days after he was born, and he could walk within 5 days. And by the time he was 3 years old, he knew everything that the people at that time knew about agriculture and cultivating plants. And he was always very concerned about the well-being of the people around him. When Yan Di turned 3 years old, great droughts were affecting some parts of the realm that he was living in, while floods were devastating the land in other parts of the realm. So after he found out that this was the result of the delinquency of the dragon kings, who were supposed to regulate weather and water flows, he got so enraged. I mean, mind you, this was a 3-year-old kid at the time. He was so enraged that he jumped into the sea to seek out the dragon kings. There were 4 of them, each governing a cardinal direction, the waters of one cardinal direction. So we have the north, the south, the east, and the west. And so little Yan Di, all of 3 years old, jumped into the sea to seek them out. And when he finally found these supposedly some of the most powerful beings in the world, he actually chastised them. He scolded them and gave them a bloody lecture. It was like, you know, you guys have a heavy responsibility to regulate weather and rainfall, and you are supposed to be looking out for the well-being of the people. And now you are just, you know, treating your responsibilities as a joke. You know, how can you be causing floods in one end of the land and droughts in the other end of the land? You know, this is ridiculous. You know, how can you do this? You should be ashamed of yourself. You know, imagine this, a 3-year-old kid with his prepubescent squeaky little voice lecturing the four most powerful beings in the world, and the Dragon Kings were actually shamed into submission. So they apologized profusely, and they were like, yeah, all right, man, all right, we see the errors of our way, and we promise you, we would regulate rainfall and weather properly from now on. So don't worry about it. We'll make sure that we don't screw it up in future. So yeah, four most powerful beings in the world being shamed into submission by a 3-year-old kid with his squeaky voice. This kid got, yeah. So after the incident, for years, Yanti would work tirelessly to better the lives of the people around him, and he would provide help and assistance to anyone that would need it. And he often came up with innovative new solutions to the problems that these people were facing. And of course, before long, he would be made the leader of these people and assume the mantle of a tribal chief of this tribe. Now, under the leadership of Yanti, the tribesmen, they obeyed without threats of penalty, and basically they knew to do the right things without the need of much rules or regulations. And the life of the people were generally a peaceful one. Now, although the people at this time had a basic understanding of cultivating plants for food, their understanding and the methods were still rather primitive. And of course, the human population was still growing and burgeoning, and their food was always a pressing issue. So Yanti was looking over the farmland one day, and he was seeing that people were still digging up the soil and digging up the land by hand. And he was like thinking, there has to be a better way to do this. There has to be a more efficient method of doing things like this at scale. And on one of his hunting trips, he saw a wild boar dig up dirt on the land with his tusk. Wild boars, big pig-like thing with huge tusk. And this wild boar was like digging in the ground, and with just a few simple flicks of the head, it was digging up like ditches and holes in the ground like it was nobody's business. And this sparked an idea in Yanti's head. And when he got back to the settlement, he set about to construct the ideal tool that he had in his head, in his mind. So after days and nights of building, upgrading, refining, experimenting, through trials and errors, with the tools that he had on hand, Yanti finally built the first plow in history. Plows, things you use to dig up the land for growing plants. Yeah, so Yanti built the first plow in history after much experimentation and trials and error. And being ecstatic that he managed to build this thing, the very next day he got one of the tribesmen to assist him to test out this new equipment. So they went into the fields, and he got his tribesmen to pull the plow ahead of him. And within moments, they were digging up, long stretches or ditches in the ground, which was way more efficient than how they've been doing it all along, which was like digging up everything by hand and rudimentary tools. And this was a huge improvement on productivity in terms of growing food. This would save a lot of time, and they could open up more pieces of land for farming. But Yanti also noticed or realized there's a flaw or problem with this method, and is that it's extremely exhausting for the person pulling the plow. You are basically pulling against the earth and trying to break up the ground. So it was extremely exhausting, and he was wondering if there's anything he could do about it. So in his quest for a better or newer power source to pull the plows, Yanti went to the heavenly realms to speak to the Jade Emperor and to petition the Jade Emperor for a solution. And the Jade Emperor, the God King guy in the sky, was touched by Yanti's concern for his fellow man. And he decided to bestow upon Yanti a treasure and told Yanti, if you put this treasure on top of the plow, it will move on its own and it will pull the plow for you faster than any other ways that you can think of. And so Yanti happily brought this treasure back with him, back to the earthly realm, the mortal realm, and he put the jewel or the treasure on top of the plow, and it indeed carved up huge swaths of farmland, with minimal effort. And for years after that, the people were living with no worries about food sources. I mean, now you have proper rainfall. I don't think the Dragon Kings would dare to be up to their mischief again. And you have these new tools and technology that help them, open up farmlands in an extremely fast and efficient method. So food source was practically solved. The issue of food source and the amount of food was practically solved. And they lived in contentment and satisfaction for many, many years after that. However, the demon of starvation, the demon that brings starvation to the land, found out about this. And of course, he was miffed and unhappy about this turn of events. And in order to, spread starvation back to the people again and to gain sacrifices from the people and worship from the people, the demon of starvation stole the jewel from the plow and ran away with it. And finding out about this, Yanti was greatly concerned. He was alarmed. He was like, oh gosh, now how are we going to plow the land? Manpower is definitely not going to be enough. So once again, he went up to the heavenly realms and he spoke again to the Jade Emperor. But this time the Jade Emperor was like, dude, I gave you whatever I could, man. You lost it. I can't do anything about it. But I heard that you have this pet, this diamond lion dog thing that follows you around. Maybe you could use your diamond lion dog to pull the plows for the people instead. Did you actually think about that one? So, no choice. Yanti this time he came back empty-handed, and he put his pet to work using the diamond lion dog to pull the plows for people. And although it was not as fast as using the Jade Emperor's jewel or treasure, it still did the work much faster and much more efficiently than using manpower. Now, another innovation that Yanti made to the development of agriculture for the early Chinese people was the introduction of fire fallow cultivation. In other words, slash and burn techniques, where farmers will burn off a huge swath of land to prepare it for the next farming season, growing season. So this greatly improved the speed of mankind's colonization of nature, I guess you could say that. And he also taught the people how to grow and extract fibers from the hemp plant. So they use the fibers to make cloth, and to later make it into better clothing for themselves. And apart from that, it was also said that Yanti invented and introduced the people to the 5-string zither. So in a way, you could say that he introduced a very early string instrument to the society, which in a way, I guess you would say, raised the standard of living and the culture of the people. Yeah. So I hope you find that story interesting, and if you did, please click the like button. That will help me out a lot. And now for some bonus facts and trivia. Now there are archaeological sites today that coincides or confirm some stories that were written in old texts, ancient texts like 周易 or 管子. These archaeological sites reveal that between about 7 to 9,000 years ago, there were the early signs of agriculture, like large-scale farming and agricultural development along the Yangtze River. And this kind of coincides with the story of Yanti fully transitioning the people from hunter-gatherers to agricultural society. I mean, mind you, before that, they do farm, they do grow food, but it was not the main thing. They were still hunter-gatherers. But it was during Yanti's time, as recorded in the ancient texts, and coinciding, I can't speak, man. You get what I mean. Coinciding with the archaeological discoveries that kind of confirms the tale that Yanti was the one that brought these hunter-gatherers fully into an agricultural society. And this was a major shift in human development, because now instead of living a more or less nomadic lifestyle, people are actually really settling and developing certain regions and growing into towns and cities in future. So that is a monumental, I would say, a monumental development in the early histories of our ancestors. Now, if you remember earlier in the episode, I mentioned that the name Yanti, or the title Yanti, translates roughly to the Flame King, the Fire King, or the Red King. Now, in ancient Chinese mythology, we talk about San Huang Wu Di, and Wu Di being the Five Thearchs, or the five god kings, or the five sage kings. And Yanti was just one of them. Current Chinese people, today's Chinese people, we refer to ourselves as Yan Huang Zi Sun, which basically means the descendants of Yan and Huang. Today we spoke about the Yan part, Yanti, that's half of it. So who was Huang? Huang was Huangdi, another one of the Five Thearchs, which we will cover in a later episode. But this just goes to show how important Yanti's contribution to the development of the Chinese people and Chinese culture was. I mean, he was so important that now we refer to ourselves as a descendant of him. I guess that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this bonus facts and trivia. And if you like this video, please, once again, click the like button. And if you like to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon so you'll be updated whenever a new video is out. And if you'd like to connect with me or support my work in other social media platforms or in any way you like, you can click on the links down in the description section. And I guess that's all for today, and I'll see you soon.